Welcome. You are listening to the Cornerstone Life podcast. We hope as you listen to these conversations, you leave encouraged that God sees you and is at work in your life. Well, welcome to our Cornerstone Life podcast. My name is Julia. Me and my husband are the children's pastors here at Cornerstone Church, and we are so excited today and honored to have the beautiful Abbie Gamboa here.
Thank you for having me.
We are just going to have a conversation. We would love to get to know you. And one thing I wanted to say, just from knowing you for less than 24 hours, I have noticed that you just radiate so much joy and the love of the Father just radiates off of you. You can, I could see you and I'm like, oh, she loves me. And you just love so many people just like Jesus did. And I just think that's so cool. And your joy and your kindness is just amazing. I want to be like that. But anyways, thank you for being here. We're just so honored. So I would love to get to know you.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you met Jesus, even how you got into music and ministry. Yeah, just tell us a story.
Yeah. So, fun fact about me is I'm the oldest of 10 children.
10?
Yes. I don't think you were in the room last night when I was talking about that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have 9 younger siblings.
That's
I just turned 29 and my baby brother just turned 10.
Wow.
I think. Yes, 10. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Almost a 20-year gap. And it was just super fun. All my siblings are my best friends.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's so many of us, so different phases of life, I'm closer to different ones. But it's been really special. There's never a boring time in our family. There's always something going on.
That's so cool. And you live near them?
Ish. I have a sister in New York. Cool. I have a brother and his wife in Houston. And I have my two youngest siblings live in Alabama.
Oh, so fun.
But everyone else is local to Dallas. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, super fun. So we all grew up. My mom was a dancer. My dad was a worship leader and a youth pastor until I was 10. Wow. So kind of that creative ministry space was very normal in our house. All of my heroes growing up were worship leaders and creatives. Yeah. And I grew up in a very creative household really very much centered around worship. My dad taught me so much of what I know today and kind of laid the groundwork. He and my mom in a lot of ways and introduced me to some of the people that really shaped how I function today as a worship leader, as just a human in the world. I remember growing up on, I don't know if you listen to old Daryl Evans, Rita Springer, super old Hillsong and Vineyard. Those were kind of my intro to worship leading in a corporate setting. And and it was because of my parents, very much so. Jason Upton, old Jason Upton stuff.
Yes.
I'm trying to think, every time I'm asked, tell me about you, I'm what else should I say? Because I could go so many directions.
Yeah.
Big family, creative family. I started leading worship when I was about 11.
Oh, that's awesome.
10 or 11, something like that. And this couple had just come into our church, and we lived in Grand Prairie, Texas, super random. It's a suburb in Dallas. And they had come from a school, Christ for the Nations, which is also in Dallas. They had just graduated, came on staff, and they just really brought me under their wing as a very young. I had never led worship on a team before. And thinking back, I was talking about this with someone recently. Thinking back, I didn't even know. I didn't have a grid for what leading worship looked like. I didn't even have a grid for worship in a corporate space and what my part even is in that, regardless of if I'm on stage or not.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful, even in my naive, young, I had no idea what to do or how to do it. Just how they brought me in and made a space for me, honestly, was very shaping in those primitive years of figuring it out. And then I just kind of served in different local communities that my family was a part of.
Yeah.
I found Upperroom in 2012, end of 2012, beginning of 2013. And I've been there ever since. It became home very fast. All the different communities that my family was a part of, we made it home very much so. But when I found Upperroom, it was oh my gosh. And it's funny because a lot of people say this, but when I found Upperroom, it was like, oh my gosh, I found my people. Like this is where it was like all of a sudden I found where I belonged. Yeah. And I didn't even lead worship there for a long time. But yeah, I met my husband there. That's my family is there.
Yeah.
We really kind of just like set our family up there, and our roots have gone deep as a family there. And so it's really cool. I married into this family that all of the brothers, my husband and all of his brothers were some of my best friends before we got married.
Like before you guys were dating?
Before we even started dating.
That's so cool.
For years. We were friends for like 5 years before we started dating. Wow. All of them. And so it's really cool because I got to marry into some of my dearest friends.
Yeah, so, that is so cool. I love how you said like that couple, saw you as like a young girl and discipled you into that. And to be like, I just think that's so cool. Like sometimes we take, this singer over here, they're good, but they're young. Yeah. It's like, no, let's like train them up or invest. And it's just so cool to see
it's so important. Yeah. I was talking to this super cool guy recently. He is young. He's like 20 something, but he was telling me about when he was in high school, he had this teacher who it was like an extracurricular thing, but they would have afternoons every week or something like that. And they would all get in the room and he would teach them about spontaneous and prophetic worship. And he would like look at someone and be like, okay, you go. Okay, now did you feel that? And he'll like break it down with them. Like, did you feel that was a song of the Lord, and let's break that down, and like, where did that come from and where is it going? And it was so beautiful hearing about it, but it was so inspiring for me because I was like, oh my gosh, like I had that. And I just hearing different people's stories is so cool because I'm like, we need moms and dads, even young moms and dads, even like big brothers and sisters to come around young people and really equip them just through relationship. Like it's not this, I think we also get weird about equipping sometimes in the church where it's like, we gotta like do it and like get them ready to like go out in the world. What the heck is on my pants? Not makeup on my pants. But yeah, it's not, I think it's less about like, let's like get them ready and more about relationship, just like doing life together.
And they're like the future of our world. Totally. Like I think about my grandkids, I'm like, okay, who's going to shape them? Literally. So like, what can I do now to shape, or even like my kids, like what can I do now to help this generation be able, because like we're in kids ministry. So I'm always like, these are the world changers. Like this could be the next president. Literally. This could be like the next, like celebrities, it could be whoever. It could be influential politicians and school teachers, all these things. Yes. And it's like we need to pour into them because they're and
see the gold in them and pull it
out. Yeah. And where they fit and help them cultivate their gifting and finding their gifting. And
we can also learn so much from them.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus said to be like a child. So
it's so crazy.
It's interesting how we've like, yes, we need wisdom and we need elders and we need older voices, but we can learn a lot from the kids.
Yes, it is so amazing. My sister, she always like gives me counseling advice all the time, and she's 13.
Yeah, honestly. So it's like same with my 18-year-old sister.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's so fun. Okay, so you were, grew up in church ministry and then went to Upperroom and stuff. Okay, and then you got married to your best friend and their family. That just seems so cool to like, because a lot of people like go into a family and they're like, who are you?
Oh my gosh, strangers. I'm so grateful. That is even like so cool. Like my massive family, all my siblings, he knew all of them that's awesome. Already. So it wasn't this like culture shock of having to learn every single one of my 9 siblings and my grandparents and all the people that he was coming into. He has a big family too, but we already knew each other's families. So it was really cool.
Yeah. So when did you guys get married?
In 2019, January 17th, 2019.
We got married in 2019 too.
Cute.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we just hit 5 years.
Aw, and you have a baby.
He's the best, 2.5.
So cute.
Little Enzo.
So cute. Okay, so he's here with you.
Yes.
And we're here at the Devoted Women's Conference, and it's been awesome. So how, like, I don't even know what question to ask, but like, how is ministry and motherhood and like it tied? I mean, I know that opens a whole can of worms. Yeah. But like, what is your favorite part about it?
My favorite part is honestly, we were talking about it yesterday, probably getting to travel together.
Yeah.
It's been such a gift. And it's a lot sometimes. I mean, traveling, like if we're just going to be like super real, traveling with a 2-year-old is like no small feat.
Yeah.
It's actually much harder than traveling with like a 4-month-old, a 6-month-old, or even 1-year-old. Like when they're tiny and not mobile yet, so much easier.
Right.
You can like really control the situation a lot more.
Yes.
Or control the environment a lot more when they're like on you. But he's like a full-on little tiny person that like has opinions and a voice and can tell you what he wants and what he doesn't want. And so traveling, there's a complicated nature to it, but there's been such a grace for it. My husband, Gabriel, and I have just been taught, kind of the theme of our lives right now is that we're just learning to follow grace. Like where's there grace? We're going to say yes to that. And where is there not? We're going to say no to that. And so there's just been this beautiful grace on traveling. Yeah. We've been traveling a lot. Yeah. Like we literally we were coming off of 10 days of back-to-back travel. And it doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it's like a couple weekend trips throughout the month scattered. But overarchingly, it's been a lot of travel. And I love that we get to bring him with us.
Yes.
I think even just, I was telling you yesterday, we had this moment we were in SoCal not even summer, it felt like summer because it was Southern California and it's always perfect there. It was in October last year. And we looked at each other, we were just on the beach. And again, it doesn't always look like this perfect, like we're on the beach, just like having this magical family moment. Yeah. But we looked at each other and we were like, this is so cool that we get to do it, all of us together. And I don't take it lightly and I don't take it for granted. I'm so aware that this is not everybody's story. Right. But we've been so grateful to get to do it together. Yeah. And we get to bring, my sister sometimes travels with us, and then Cynthia, our nanny, who's like part of our family. One of them always comes, or I'd say like 95% of the time one of them comes. So when we're doing stuff like this, when we have a set, when we have a sound check, whatever, some kind of commitment on the trip, someone is with him. Yeah. But even that brings another family aspect because it's like all of us going together. And it's just fostered this really beautiful community aspect to our lives where we get to do all this stuff as a unit. Yeah. So
that's
been really
so
special.
Beautiful. Yeah. I just love it. I think, we as like people like looking into your ministry are so thankful because it's like you guys get to pour into create these beautiful songs but also like get to travel and like you're here today pouring into all of us and we're so super blessed. Like we're so thankful that you were able to do that. And I think that is just so cool. Yeah. So cool.
I mean, and I think, because I know you were saying like moms may be listening to this and I think one thing that has been so, I'm trying to figure out how to even like phrase this, but it's the like balance thing. I get asked a lot, like, how do you balance like ministry and family? And I think it's so much about a heart posture. There's not like a cut and dried, this is how you balance. Like if you do this much time and you do this much time, it'll be perfectly balanced. It's never like that. It's like day by day and moment to moment. What do I say yes to and what do I say no to right now? Right. But I think it's so much about a heart posture. And what I mean by that is I love coming. I love traveling. I love coming to stuff like this. I love getting to songwrite and be a part of recordings and all the things, and it's so beautiful. But I find the most life when I get to be home with Enzo and with Gabe. And so I think just like finding what that looks like for you, but maintaining that simplistic, like I'd be okay without all the other things has been so helpful for me. If that makes sense. I don't know if that
makes sense.
Translates, but yeah.
I think that's so cool. Like, I feel like everyone's trying to find balance. And it's like, what should we say yes? And just even leaning on the Holy Spirit, like, okay, Holy Spirit, what should I say yes to?
Yes.
Really the question, what should I say no to? Because I feel like there's
the
so many people that are like, yes, I want to do this. Even if it's good, it may not be God. Like, even if it's like, hey, you need to go to this place, or this is where your ministry needs to be today. It's like, well, wait, is this what God is saying? Is this what the Holy Spirit wants for me and my family?
Yeah.
And putting family first.
Yeah.
So huge. And
I
so
mean,
good.
This is like, I feel like this is almost like trite at this point. Everybody says this, but it's so true that your biggest ministry and your biggest calling is your family.
Yeah.
Like, for you, it's your husband. For me, it's my son and my husband. Like, yes, I'm so grateful for like the reach that music has. Music does transcend, and it is like this thing that goes beyond what can be explained. But my calling in life is to love my husband and my baby well. That's like my biggest, like, to love God, and then they are next. And then everything else very much comes after that.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's what balance is. And figuring out what exactly that looks like moment to moment is like the journey of life. Like, how do we figure out what balance looks like right now?
Right.
In this decision.
Yes, in the moment.
Yeah. And it's the saying no, like you were saying. It's so much like God,
sometimes.
Literally what is for right now.
Right.
What do I say yes to? And what do I say no to?
Exactly.
And it even gets complicated, like right now. I mean, this is like vulnerable, but it's just real. Where we're at right now this is how we're paying our bills. Like, we're traveling full time, and it's our main source of income.
Yeah.
And so it becomes complicated. And I think this is like a big conversation around creativity and even like ministry and worship leading specifically, of like, how do I maintain a pure heart posture but also pay my bills, also support my family.
Yeah.
And so that, I bring that up because that becomes a factor in the what do I say yes to and what do I say no to?
Yeah.
Because it's very much like, okay, do I just say yes to this opportunity because it will fill a gap financially or practically or whatever? Or am I truly leaning? It really is confronting in your trust in God as provider for all things.
Yes.
For your emotional stability, for your mental health, for your body, for your finances, for all of it. Like, am I actually trusting that what you're going to say will cover all of that?
Right. Yeah.
Rather than, I'm just going to say yes to this because it makes sense. Yeah, it pays the bills.
Yeah.
It makes sense practically for what's in front of me.
Right.
So it's been an interesting journey of like,
for sure.
Again, figuring out what's in front of me, what's for right now, all of that.
Yeah, I remember being in YWAM and we were like, okay, it's just like, you're doing
fundraising life. Woo!
Never wish that upon anybody. I wish we could figure out a different system for that. But,
dude, I have so much respect.
It's just like, it can be a lot. It's like, okay, Lord, like, what are you wanting me to do?
Yeah.
Like, it all can sound good, and it can all, like, we could be a blessing wherever we're at.
Yes.
But it's like, well, what should we do? What is right for our family? What is right for, this ministry or our,
Yes.
Yeah, and just lots of prayer into it and stuff.
So good.
So one thing, I love your song. It's like that I get overwhelmed sometimes. Oh my gosh, I literally would rewind it and just listen to that in my car. And when I first heard your album, I was like sending it to everybody. I was like, you gotta listen to this, because I was being so, like, I felt like you were in my brain, and like everything that you were saying was like, oh my gosh, this is me.
Same.
I'm like, what? Like, I could have never written any of those songs, but
but that's real.
It just felt like so, like, music truly does. Like, I mean, here's little old me in Kansas, like trying to, like listening to this and being so touched by the Father. And so I just thank you for saying yes to the Holy Spirit and sharing those songs with the world, because they are like literally gold. I could listen. It plays every night in our house. Not gonna lie.
Thank you for saying that. You're so sweet.
But I love it. But okay, so let's kind of talk about worship leading, if you're okay, and songwriting.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the up and coming? Because I know, like, even in our community, we have a lot of 13, 14, 15-year-olds who are starting to, go into worship and play in a band and all the things. So what would you want to hear? What would you want to say to yourself when you were that?
I don't know that I would want to hear this, but the first thing that comes to mind is submit yourself under leadership. whether that's in your church, whether if you are wanting to serve in a local community, it is 100% under somebody in leadership at the church.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, just getting good, solid, trustworthy leaders in your life, moms and dads. We need moms and dads so bad. Like outside of and in addition to our blood-related parents, our birth, like the people who birthed us into the world. We need those too, but we need like when I say moms and dads, I mean just like voices of wisdom. And we need their words. We need their years of experience ahead of us. So I would say first, submit yourself under leadership. And that looks like fully like letting somebody into your life and being open to feedback about your life. And the other thing I would say is be yourself. And I know that's like so broad, but truly, as someone who has felt like a square peg in a round hole in a lot of spaces, and I've fought for like authenticity and like being like, I want to be myself regardless of where I'm at. But truly finding that like the truth of the fact that we each have our own little niche, we each bring our own thing to the table. But even with that, like I would even counter that and go back to get yourself under leadership, because being yourself, not submitted to covering, just gets really weird really fast.
Yeah.
And so getting people in your life that see what's actually inside of you and can call it out, but also have permission to speak into. I think especially when you're younger, like I still need it. I'm closer to 30 than I am to 20, and I still need it. I will need it for the rest of my life. Wisdom and counsel and just people who've been living longer than me, honestly. So I would say both those things. I would say learn to do both. Learn to find your seat at the table and bring what you bring to the table, because only you can bring it. And submit that under covering.
Yes, that's so good.
Yeah.
So I remember while you were saying that, I remember hearing, and I'm pretty sure some of your family, you may have been there. It was at a conference, a pastor's conference in Michigan at Radiant Church. And
yes, I was. Well, was it a couple years ago?
Yes.
I was probably there.
Yes, it was called Arise, and we were there, and I remember
Arise and Shine.
Yeah,
I was there.
So I was in the breakout session, and I remember hearing your community, like them talking, you guys talking about like submission in your team.
Yes.
In your set. So would you explain that? Because that like changed. I was like, whoa, I've never heard
mutual submission is what we call it.
Yes. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, that's like, it pairs with what I just said, but it also is its own. I think what we were probably talking about was more so within our team. Like dynamics with the musicians and the worship leaders. This is like a whole rabbit trail I could go down, because I feel so strongly that the musicians are just as much of a leader as I am with a microphone.
Yes.
And even like the position, I could literally get on a rant.
Go
because
ahead.
even like the positioning of how we do stages upsets me sometimes, because I'm just like, I get it. Like I understand that we need structure and we need, we need order. We need structure. God is a God of order, and he honors order, and he comes when there's order. But at the same time, I'm like, why do the worship leaders stand in the front and the musicians stand in the back? Musicians stand in the back, because to me, we're doing it together. And the way I view it is like a dance. Like we are just like, it's this like back and forth thing. Like, and part of the mutual submission thing that we were probably talking about, we talk about it a lot, is learning each other. Learning what makes each other tick. Like it's why I bring my husband and his brothers on the road with me, because we have spent over a decade learning what makes each other tick. In that setting, in that space of leading together and creativity and experimenting and learning to trust. And Gabe is a perfect example, but even Julian, his brother, who plays guitar, and Oscar, who plays keys, and Nick, our friend Nick is on this trip with us, but usually Oscar's with us, and Sebastian, like all of them, they know that they can do certain things and it will trigger something in my heart that causes me to want to respond to God, and vice versa. I can sing things that like so it's this back and forth thing of like learning almost how we're almost like creating this beautiful tapestry together for God and with the room. And it's this beautiful thing, but the mutual submission comes into play when we each realize that we each play a part and coming underneath. And even like there've been moments where the room is very much led by the music. And so coming like, it happens a lot with the bass. It happens with all of them, but Gabe, my husband, plays bass, and a lot of times he will end up leading a moment, like we'll come down and he'll end up taking it, and we'll all come underneath what God is doing inside of Gabriel, regardless of the fact that he just has a bass. Because I think that's how people view it a lot of times, he's just the bass player. But to us, he is playing just as vital of a role as me with the microphone. And honestly, the main difference is that I have a microphone, so I can say words.
Right.
Which does create context a lot of times. But to me, what they do is almost more important. At least, like, I'm not saying this as a fact. I'm saying it from my point of view. What they do is more important because, like I said earlier, music does transcend. Like, they can say much more with a note and with a melody than I can with words. Words fall short.
Right.
We get to a point where words are no longer helpful.
Yeah.
And they no longer translate what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Especially once you get to a place in the presence of God where you're like, we did it, we're here. We're like, there's nothing else to say or do. We're just here in the presence of God. Yeah. And the music is truly, sometimes it is literally just silence that's needed. But if anything, it's not words most of the time.
Yeah.
In those moments. So anyway, so that kind of speaks a little bit to the mutual submission thing.
Yeah.
It's very much just recognition of every role being vital.
Yeah. That's so cool. I think it's, we used to have, when we first had this building, the team, I don't even think if Josiah or Johnny knows this, but the team was literally in their own little, like there was a stage, and then where the seats are and where the drum booth were, it was like a sunken in. It was almost like an orchestra. And we're like, what the heck?
That's like, how it was like set up when you got the building?
Yeah. So it's like crazy how the church has like, we've gotten to know more of who God is.
Yes.
To know that, hey, no, this is, it's not about the worship. It's about God. It's not about, but here we are. We're all bringing the presence, and we're all taking everybody to this place.
Yes.
And I just think that's just so cool.
It's so cool. And I could literally talk about this for a long time, but real quick note, like in the secular world, in bands, it's not as much, like you think about huge bands, the 1975, U2, Coldplay, like the Beatles, like all of these massive names, but it's not a face that you think of when you think of, maybe like the frontman of all of these bands that I just mentioned, but you think of the band.
Right.
And it's a collective effort because they've got a hold of this thing of like, we each bring a piece to this. Yeah. And the way that the musicians contribute is just as important. Yeah. And I think we're coming back to it in the church, but there were some years there, and it's still very much like that in a lot of spaces, but I think we're coming back to that place. We lost it for a little bit. It also is probably, I think my eyes opened really big when I married into a family of all musicians. Oh, yeah. So it was just right in my face, and seeing the lack of recognition really broke my heart all the time. It still does. Yeah. And so it's kind of risen up this thing. I also just like carry this family thing, and I'm like, it's weird to me to not treat this like a family effort. Right. And I say that, and we're literally, most of us are family, but even when it's not your actual blood family, I'm saying like all of us together doing this as a unit, as a family. Yeah. It's so important. It's the body of Christ.
It
like
is, yeah.
we are a small little representation of the body at large.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's act like a body.
Yeah. I like even hear stories of people playing drums, just drums, and people like getting heart surgery or like getting healed, you know,
Literally.
like and just like lines on, you know, a guitar or even bass lines or whatever that you just feel. And I mean, I can play piano a little bit, but it's a lot more work to learn songs than just sing.
Same.
I'm like, it's easy to sing, but like, you know, it could be a lot of like practicing and everything like that.
Is.
So musicians
Saul called David to come play for him.
Yeah.
Didn't call a worship leader. He didn't call, David was a worship leader, but he called him to come. He called a musician in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know, there's something to that. There's something to that. And the atmosphere shifted and demons fled and like all this crazy stuff happened because a musician came in and played their instrument.
So cool.
It's pretty crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us something about songwriting.
Yeah.
Like I like wrote a song when I was like 8. I told Josiah, I was like, I want to write a song. He wants to give me a song for free, but I'm not a writer. So I don't really know much about songwriting.
Yes.
So what would be something that has helped you so much in songwriting?
That's so funny you said you wrote a song when you were 8 because I just found a bunch of songs that I wrote around that same age.
That's so funny.
It was so funny. And it was really funny. Gabe and I found, we were looking, I don't even know, we were looking for our lost passports. That's what we were looking for. So we were looking through like every box in our house. Yeah. And I have all these like long, skinny, under the bed boxes underneath our bed. I call them under the bed boxes. They're just like huge. I don't even know what you call that. Like massive Tupperware. Yeah. Anyways, I have this one box of like all my finished journals. And one of them was my songwriting book from when I was little. And it was so funny because I didn't even have like a phone or a way to make, now I make voice memos of everything.
Yes.
But I remembered all the melodies. I would like
when you were looking at this book.
Yes, I would like read the words to him and I'll be like, oh, I could sing that one for you. It was so funny.
Gosh.
So it's just interesting like how times have changed. Yeah. I was just forced to remember. Like I either remembered or I didn't. Yeah. Now we luckily have devices to like record it for us. Anyway, that was just a little funny thing that I thought of when you said you wrote a song. I would say, and this applies more to writing with other people.
Yeah.
I wrote for a long time by myself. I still do, but I got really uncomfortable writing with other people because the way I write is so much, it's so much from my heart. Yeah. And I struggle to even say things that don't feel like genuine and so true from me. But I've learned to walk in with open hands, keep my ideas with an open hand. Because for a long time, I would come into a group, right? And maybe there were years and years where I would bring in like a song start. It was like something like a chorus or maybe a spontaneous song that came out of a prayer set or something. Or maybe it was like a verse. It was like a couple chunks of a song that I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I want to finish it. And I would bring it to a couple of other people and I would always like struggle to actually finish the song because I felt like it was going to lose the integrity of what I meant when I started it if I brought other people in. Yeah. But I have, in the last few years, I have learned to walk in with more open hands, and it's been so beautiful because, again, it's this like functioning like a body thing. Yeah. The way that I say things is important because I do bring something to the table that nobody else does. But then all these other people bring all their things to the table. And I've written some of the most beautiful, some of my favorite songs are ones that I let other people into, or even if it wasn't my like original idea of a song start, just coming in with an open hand of like, maybe I'm going to throw out some ideas, maybe they'll stick, maybe they won't. Right. But this is a group effort. Right. So that's like one practical thing is really just trying your best to live with open hands in group settings specifically. Yeah.
We're better together.
We're better together.
Community, like all of it.
We really are.
Bands, everything, songwriting, it's like family. It's like
Yeah.
we're all better together.
Yeah.
I think that's something like even with COVID and everything, like it brought we're like separation.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we kind of got used to like a lot of the separation.
It's
and
so
it's
true.
like when I was living in community, like living around the YWAM base and with people, it's just like, I felt like I got a taste of heavenly community.
Yeah.
And it's like now, like, people are so spread apart and people have their own jobs and all these things. And it's like, we are truly better together.
We really are.
Like, it's just so cool.
It's so true. And in the songwriting vein, what I'm saying doesn't mean that there's not a space for the songs of your heart on your own. I still write on my own a lot, but I think, living with an open hand when you are bringing other people into it. Yeah. And also being okay with needing other people. Because like you said, we are better together. We need each other.
We really do.
We need each other really bad. It gets real weird when you don't know that you need other people.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't lean in.
Yeah.
We need other people.
We do. The Lord saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, gotta create.
Said it's not good.
Yeah. Like,
for man to be alone.
So anyways, well, I just thank you like so much for not even just being here. Like, we are so grateful for you being here, but also just doing what the Lord has given you and sharing like everything and just your worship. It's just like, it's so beautiful. Like seeing you worship to the Lord. It's like, wow. Yeah, like you carry something that is just like everyone can feel it and it's just so anointed and I just love it. So I just thank you. You and your team carry it. It's so amazing. And so thank you for letting us in.
Of course.
A little bit
Thank
to
you for
your amazing
having me.
life. And so anyways, thank you so much for joining us and check back for the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Cornerstone Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love to meet you. Join us any Sunday at 10 a.m. at Cornerstone Church in Blue Springs. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share. See you next time.